My name is Kevin VanDam, and I am a competitor in the Major League Fishing World Championship. My dad took me fishing the first time when I was 3 years old. He carried me out on the ice, took me ice fishing, and I was just always drawn to water. I started fishing all over the place when I was 5 or 6, ride my bike, walk to ponds, trout streams. In Michigan where I grew up, there's water everywhere. So I would do whatever I could during the summers and things like that to go fishing for anything, and it didn't really matter at all. So I got into bass fishing at a pretty young age too, but early on I just fished for anything. And in Michigan we have a lot of opportunities. As I started to grow up, when the salmon run would happen, I'd be salmon fishing. Steelhead in the spring, the opener walleye season, northern pike, crappie, bass, bullhead, carp, dogfish, it didn't matter, but bass were always my favorite. And so when I was 14, I actually fished my first tournament with my older brother. And it was pretty cool because it was late in the fall. It was on a local lake there in Michigan. And my brother paid for everything. He paid the entry fee, he paid for the gas, he did everything. And we went out fishing, and I caught a couple of big ones right off the bat, and then I caught a couple more a little later, and I think he caught one keeper all day long. And we ended up finishing second and winning a couple $100, and it was, I thought because I caught the fish that I should get all the money. And he had to have a couple of his other guys say, hey, no, that's not how it works. In team tournaments you split it and things like that. So I thought he was trying to pull something on me, but it really fueled that fire for competition for me. So, I started fishing more tournaments. When I was 16 and got my driver's license, I joined the Cal Valley Bass Club. That first year I fished as a non-boater, and I fished with a different guy each time. And I knew right then after that first year that I had to have my own boat and do my own thing. So, we had a 1610 Procraft with a 115 Mercury as our family boat. My dad allowed me to use that for tournaments the next year, and I won Angler of the Year my first year in the club when I was a boater. And I started fishing state tournaments, regional tournaments, things like that. I'd fish with my brother, fish with Don Stevens, another friend of ours, fishing some team tournaments, fishing draw tournaments, fishing some, then they were Redmans, now they're BFLs. Started doing that stuff through that same time. I fished with my brother-in-law, Tom, then he wasn't my brother-in-law, but we fished some U.S. bass events and things like that. So I just fished a lot of tournaments there, locally and regionally, for a couple years and had a lot of success. I fished my first Bassmaster tournament when I was, I think, 18, just to give it a try, and was a very humbling experience. I was on what I thought was the winning fish. We were at Thousand Islands, New York, a place that's smallmouth and familiar to what I like to do. And I drew out with a pretty big name pro and let him talk me totally out of my game plan and going with him. And I just got a little intimidated, and I learned a good lesson right there that I just thought back to many, many times. So, I fished a few Bassmaster tournaments over the next few years, had some success in some, and decided to start full-time on the tour. Never growing up did I think, hey, I want to be a professional bass angler as a career. I just loved the competition, I loved tournaments, and I just kept working my way up the ladder. And now I'm, 27 years later, full-time as a pro, it's gone by like that. It seems like maybe 10 years at the most. So it's just amazing, the progression of bass fishing as a whole, and Major League fishing, and just how awesome it is. It's hard to look back at those days and ever imagine that it could be anything like this.